If for some reason you can't come to all the sessions, you will find copies of this seminar also on YouTube and ISKCON Desire Tree and on my website. So you can make it up there. And I think we've sold about half the books that we brought. Yes. If you missed getting one, they are on sale for a little bit more money on Amazon. So my plan is that tonight we'll be doing verses 1, 2, and 3. Then tomorrow we'll be doing 4 and 5. Then on Saturday we have 2 sessions. We'll do 6 and 7 in the morning and 8 and 9 in the afternoon. And then on Sunday morning we'll be doing 10, 11, and 12. All right? And this is going to be somewhat of a fun shop. It's not just a seminar. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. So this new translation that you have, we were able to publish this in the 50th anniversary of ISKCON, is unique because not only does it contain the commentary of Bhaktivinoda, it also has Bhaktivinoda's Bengali songs on each verse of Manah Siksa, and this is the first time that Bhaktivinoda's Bengali songs on Manah Siksa have ever been published in English. So in addition, is that my computer doing that beep or your computer? It's your computer. Is it hungry or? So also unique in this edition is we have commentary by contemporary Vaishnavas. So you'll see that we have commentary by Jayadvaita Swami, by Sachinandan Maharaj, by Shivaram Swami, Bhaktivedanta Swami. I've also written a commentary. So I didn't realize till after we published this that this was the first time there'd ever been a combination of the commentaries of the Acharyas and commentaries of contemporary devotees. So I think that by having the contemporary commentaries here really brings this book into 2017. You'll find that when you read those, oh yeah, okay, this is how I can apply Krishna consciousness. In addition, we had many original paintings commissioned for this work. In the smaller book, you'll see that we have 12 original oil paintings that were made specifically for this translation. You'll be seeing all of them in the presentation. And we also have in the larger book 120 black and white drawings that were made to illustrate Bhaktivinoda's commentaries and his songs. And you'll also be seeing most of them in the presentation. If you want to get prints of those, if you go to radharani.com, we are selling prints of those, which the money from that helps us to clean Radhakund and Govardhan every day. We feed the widows there every day. We're restoring the sacred sites there every day. So if you'd like to get any prints and check out radharani.com, you can do that. So thank you very much. Okay, so why is this book important? Well, there's many reasons. We're going to look at 2 in particular. One is that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur called Manah Siksa a padati. Pada means step, and hati means progress. So this book is a step-by-step guide to achieving spontaneous love for Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, perhaps what's even more astounding is that Bhaktivinoda says that Rupa Goswami tells us what to do, but it's only Raghunath Das Goswami who tells us how to do it. What I found particularly of interest in the Sri Manah Siksa is that Raghunath Das Goswami is delving into the psychology of bhakti. What are the changes that happened in our mind and our consciousness as we progress? And I simply haven't found any other book of our acharyas that gives us that kind of guidance. Another very important reason, and one for which we are happy we were able to publish this on the 50th anniversary year, is you may be familiar that there was a controversy about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, especially started by the Babajis at Radhakund and Shamakund. This is an old photograph of Shamakund. And they claimed that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was not teaching the bona fide path of spontaneous devotion, that he was only teaching regulative devotion. And we find that a similar criticism has been levied at our Srila Prabhupada. In fact, regularly I hear of people saying, well, I can't really find the highest thing in ISKCON. I have to go someplace else. I have to go to the Babajis at Radhakund or this person or that person. So what's very wonderful about this Sri Manah Siksha is it completely resolves this controversy and shows that Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta are indeed teaching the highest path of spontaneous devotion. We'll be discussing that very briefly today in regard to verse 3. I see that most of you have already gotten a book. In the book itself, in the larger book, you'll see that there's a chapter in part 1, if you look at the table of contents, called The Importance of Manah Siksha. If any of you have a book, you can look at volume 2. And you'll see there's a chapter called The Importance of Manah Siksha. Do you notice that? Yeah. Okay. So in that chapter, we deal with this topic in depth. So I'm going to be just touching on it in today's class in regard to chapter 3. But if you're really interested in pursuing it, it is there in depth. I should also say this book is available additionally as a Kindle book on Amazon. And in Kindle book, it's there as one volume. Okay? All right. So because this book is a padati, every verse is a step on the path, and every verse is cumulative. So every verse is going on from the verse before it. However, at the same time, we can divide the Manah Siksha up into 3 main parts. The first 3 verses, which we'll be doing, Krishna willing, tonight, are giving the qualification for starting the path of bhakti. The next verses are obstacles and how to overcome them. Right, so we'll be doing this tomorrow night, yes? Yes, tomorrow night and Saturday morning. And that's the really heavy part of Manah Siksha. That's the heart surgery part. You feel so much better when it's over, but it's kind of intense. So if any of you don't like intense, then don't come tomorrow night and Saturday morning. Because the beginning is sweet, the end is sweet. Then the last verses are after one has conquered all the obstacles and is in perfection, how does one behave? And then finally, there's a verse of benediction. What I find very astonishing, among many things about the Sri Manah Siksha, is all of the verses, even the last verses, which deal with the stages of perfection, are all applicable even to someone in their first week in bhakti. Although this book is meant for the serious devotees, still it can be applied even to the beginners, which is not true of most serious books of spontaneous devotion. Most of those books, the beginners aren't even supposed to read. But this book is the kind of book that can be applied to everyone. And I have taught it at Sunday feast classes and at venues like that. Right? I had one gentleman even tell me after a home program, I can apply this to when I play the stock market. And I thought, well, I don't think that was Raghunath Das Goswami's intention. But the point is that I found that everything can be understood even at a simple level as well as at a very advanced level. So there's a benediction given in the last verse, and that is that if we sing these mantras with a sweet voice and try to understand their meaning, we will attain the jewel of service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So what do you think? Is that a good benediction? Okay. So because of that, I'd like us to actually sing the verses together. And by the way, we're very happy to see children here at the class. Thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing your children. Prabhupada says, all glories to the assembled devotees includes the children. And the children are welcome as long as they don't scream. So normal children noises is fine, just as long as they don't scream. So we're going to start with the first verse. And I'd like it if we could, as I said, we get this benediction for singing the verses. So I'd like us to sing it together. This is to the tune of Jagannathastakam, except we don't change the last line. So sing the 4th line just like the first 3, and then we can also say the English together. So if we can sing this together. Oh, by the way, if you're looking in the book, there is in the small book, in the back, there is a couple pages where all the verses are just on 2 pages together. And you may find that easier than flipping through the book for each verse. You find 2 pages where we just list the verses together. We've done that, so it's for ease of recitation. Okay, together. Guro goste gostala ishu sujane bhusuragane swamantre shrinamni vrajanavayuva dvandvasharane Saradambam hitva kururatima purvamatitaram Aye swantar bratascha tubirabiya chedritapadaha. All together, English. Oh dear brother, oh mind, having given up all pride, please develop unprecedented and excessive attachment to Sri Guru, to Sri Vrindavana, the abode of cows, to the devotee residents of Vrindavana, to all the devotees on this planet, to the confidential mantra given by Sri Guru, to the holy names of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and to the process of surrendering to the fresh youthful couple of Raja. Holding your feet, I beseech you with sweet words. You may have heard that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that we should beat our mind with sticks and shoes, but how is Raghunath Das Goswami speaking to his mind here? Very sweetly. What is he saying? My dear brother, I'm holding your, what is he saying? I'm holding your feet. And I'm beseeching you with sweet words. I'm begging you with sweet words. So sometimes when we deal with a very difficult person, we deal with them sweetly, yes? Confirmed. We don't always just immediately get heavy with them. So here he's starting out very sweetly. Don't worry, he's going to bring out a sick. Okay, on Saturday morning, for verse 6. You'll notice here that we have the word ratim. You see the word ratim? So what does rati mean? Attachment, what else? Power, okay, what else? Bhava, okay. But also is power. Yes, rati and bhava are interchangeable. What else? Who is the personality of rati? Perhaps. But in this world, no? She's the wife of Cupid. So there's very intense attachment. Very intense attachment. Now, one of the unique aspects of the path of bhakti, as compared to the other paths, is that we start with attachment. We start with attachment. So often we think of spiritual life as detachment, right? Like what does Bhagavad Gita say? We should be detached from what? Huh? The body. What are some of the dualities we should be detached from? Huh? Honor, dishonor, pleasure and pain, happiness and distress, gain and loss, success, failure, friends, enemies, neutral, right? Fame, infamy. Those are all hard things to be detached from, aren't they? Yes. We don't mind being detached from we'd like to be detached from the painful things. We don't like to be detached from the pleasurable things. And so he's telling us to be detached from all these dualities, and often we think of spiritual life as a platform of detachment. But here in the verse 1 of this Padati, Raghunath Das Goswami is telling us to have attachment. This is a very significant point. Bhakti is really the path of attachment. Maya Shakta Manaparta, Ashakta. Ashakti also means attachment. Krishna explains in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Our process is we become detached from the material by becoming attached to the spiritual. We see this principle operating even in ordinary material life. Right? If you get attached to one man, one woman, you get at least, maybe not permanently, but at least temporarily, you get detached from everybody else. Right? when a boy and a girl, at least in the beginning when they're in love, they don't see any other man or any other woman in the world, isn't it? Yes? So it's that principle. When I become attached to Krishna, then naturally I feel detachment from material life. But you'll notice here that Raghunath Das Goswami is giving us a whole list of where we should put our attachment. And Bhaktivinoda in his commentary says that if you try to just become attached to Krishna without becoming attached to what's in relationship to Krishna, it's not going to work. So let's go through the list of where he says we should put our attachment. Now you notice also he's saying, Ratim apurvam atitaram, right? And we have unprecedented and excessive attachment. Unprecedented. This is not a material attachment. Material attachment doesn't last, right? You get very attached to your new car. After a while, it's just your car, right? You don't even notice it anymore. You get a beautiful home. Oh, I have a beautiful home. And then you become conditioned to it. The attachment doesn't remain so strong. But this spiritual unprecedented attachment keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. And we will also look a little bit later at the word excessive. So he says that we should become attached to our gurus. And here you see one of the many black and white illustrations from the book. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this means our Diksha and Shiksha gurus and anyone who helps us on the path of bhakti. And Bhaktivinoda in his commentary says that we should see the guru not just as a saintly person, but also as our friend. So the first time I met Prabhupada, which was in, guess what city? Chicago. I first met Srila Prabhupada, which was in Chicago, and Prabhupada came for the first Chicago Rath Yatra. So I first saw him when he was sitting on the Vyasasan, giving the Bhagavatam class. I was fanning him for a large portion of the class. And Prabhupada was there speaking very formally as the Acharya. And my realization while I was fanning him was that there was no difference between hearing Srila Prabhupada on a recording and hearing Srila Prabhupada in person. I didn't experience any difference at all, which for me was very reassuring. But it was also a little disturbing because I had wanted there to be something personal. So we were very fortunate. My father, my husband, and I all met with Srila Prabhupada later that morning in his room. And there Srila Prabhupada was speaking with us very casually, very informally. And it was quite clear that Srila Prabhupada had a great love for each of us individually. And we really felt then that Srila Prabhupada was our best friend. In fact, when we left the room, my father turned to me and he said, "Now I know why you've come. This is a genuine holy person." So how did Srila Prabhupada sign his letters? Your ever well-wisher. And he also said, "I hope this meets you in good health." So Prabhupada is our well-wisher on all levels, not even just spiritually, but even in terms of our health. So it's to see the guru not just a saintly person, but as our friend. Not our friend like a buddy kind of friend. Not that kind of a friend. Actually, maybe some of you know how Srila Prabhupada first met Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Have you heard this story? So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, before he was a devotee, he was living in a hippie nudist ranch. And Prabhupada went there to preach. Just imagine this, you know. So Prabhupada went there to preach. So he comes up to Srila Prabhupada without clothes on. And he just slaps Prabhupada on the back and says, "How you doing, Swami?" So, not that we should see the guru as a friend like that. Not like, you know. But we see that this is my well-wisher. And it's so important that the whole Manah Siksa, the first word in Manah Siksa is guru. The first word in Manah Siksa is guru. Then he says that we should have attachment for the process of surrender to the lotus feet of the divine couple. Here Bhaktivinoda mentions that this means we should be one-pointed at the lotus feet of the divine couple, And hold on to that fact, because we're going to look at that in the next verses, how we can be one-pointed to the lotus feet of the divine couple. But Raghunath Goswami is also saying we should have great attachment for the process of surrender. Now, I found in ISKCON there's some jargon that when we're going through a hard time, we say, I'm getting purified, bro. I don't know what it is that we associate purification almost only with suffering. It's very rare that someone says, I just went through some purification, it was ecstatic. But we should actually be looking forward to the process of surrender and attachment to the process of surrender. By the way, what are we surrendering? Our false ego. When people think about surrendering materialism, they think about their car or their house or something like that. But that's not the problem. The car is not the problem. The problem is the false ego. And we don't want to surrender our false ego because we think it's who I am. We think if I give up my false ego, I won't have any identity. That's why we're all so afraid of death, by the way. Because death, we give up this identity that we've spent our whole life cultivating. You understand? There was an old drama we used to do on the Sunday feast called The Wrong Bank Account. You know that one? So this guy, every week when he gets his paycheck, he puts some of it into a bank account for savings. Then when he goes to retire, he wants to get out the money, and the bank teller says, you don't have any money in your account. He says, every week I was putting in all this money, and he said, you put it into somebody else's account. So our whole life, we're investing in an identity of our body and mind. I am a banker. I am an IT specialist. I am an engineer. I am a doctor. Does that cover all of your careers in the room? You know, and I'm this person's husband, I'm this person's wife, I'm this person's son, this person's daughter, you know, I'm from this country and this part of this country, and we're investing in that. We're putting our emotional and intellectual energy into that identity. And at the time of death, that's really what we lose. That's what we lose. Right? And that's why we're so afraid of death. You know, I've invested everything in this identity, and then I have to start all over again with a new identity. So our idea in bhakti yoga, and actually in every kind of yoga, is to voluntarily give up this false identity during life. Now that doesn't leave us with nothing like a Buddhist, but we're supposed to be doing this by cultivating our real identity, and we'll get into this more in verse 2. But so we should be very excited about the process of giving up our false identity. Why? Because our false identity is the source of all of our misery. So it should be exciting. What are some times when our false ego is really challenged? Will this reach all the way over to the flip chart? I have a portable mic for that. Do I have a portable mic for that, or is somebody? You have my portable mic. Oh, right. Thank you. Hare Krishna. All right. I told you this was going to be a fun shop and not just a seminar, right? Is that right? Sometimes on a weekday night, everybody just wants to be entertained. So what are some times when our false ego really gets challenged? Somebody gives feedback. Any kind of feedback? All right, any kind of feedback. Well, it could be because when you get negative feedback, you're like, and when you get positive feedback, then you're just like, so either way, it's a kind of challenge, isn't it? Right? Because the negative feedback, you want to go, thank you, and the positive feedback, you want to go, that's my guru. All right, what's some other times when our false ego really gets challenged? Okay, opinion is challenged. Especially if it's on social media, right? Then we have to stay up till 2 in the morning defending our false ego. Yes?
We don't get the right result from our actions.
Whoa, okay. I work really, really hard for something and it's a flop. Oh my God, I can think of so many times that happened to me and you're just like, but there's some other times our false ego gets challenged. Yes? Okay. It's so funny. This is my last stop on the Manah Siksa tour. I've been taking it all over the world. And I almost put an S there. It's like I'm in America. Yes? Then we kind of see I'm not the boss, right? Right? Or this one. Then we kind of realize, what was my motive for doing this? It was all just recognition, right? We get so devastated. It's even worse when not only do we not get recognized or not get the credit, but we get blamed. You ever done that? I mean, you've worked really, really hard, maybe for weeks or months to do something, and then all you do is get criticized for it? Right? Some other instances where a false ego gets a beating. Okay, we have inability. So what we're hearing in this verse is that we should have great attachment to this process of surrender. We should actually be attached to it. Now, in the beginning, that's difficult. Because in the beginning, it's really threatening our identity. It's threatening our sense of self. As we progress in bhakti, we should become more and more and more excited about the opportunities to let go of this false self. That what is distasteful and scary in the beginning should become delightful. And this should be one of the ways to test. Prabhupada said, we don't need to get a certificate from others if we're making advancement. He said, just like when you're eating, you don't need someone else to certify that you've eaten enough. So you can see yourself whether you're advancing. This is one of the tests. That when there's an opportunity for our false identity to be dismantled, we rejoice in it. Then he says to become attached to the holy places. So particularly to Vrindavan, the land of cows. So if we're attached to someone, we should be attached to their place. Most of us are attached to our own place, our ancestral home. You know, everyone has some attachment like that to their home. I remember one time when I was preaching in China, practically nobody spoke English at all, as in like not hello, nothing at all. So when I was in the airport leaving China, there were some people standing in line, and some of them spoke English, and not only did they speak English, they spoke English with an American accent, and not only did they speak English with an American accent, they spoke English with a Northeastern American accent. I was like, yes, my people. So we tend to become very attached to our home, you know, where we come from, or the house we live in, or, you know, even some brahmachari gets attached to his shelf in the ashram. So we should be also attached to Krishna's home. Now, of course, we see that this does not always happen. I think one of the saddest things about visiting the holy places in India is you see how people have so much disregard for the holy place. And as I mentioned, we work with we're running a project where we do daily cleaning at Radhakund, Shamakund, Govardhan. But it's really a problem that people come, they want to get blessings, you know, give me blessings, and then they just throw their trash everywhere. I saw this particularly in Ujjain. So when I was visiting Ujjain, there's a sacred river there, and along the bank of the river there's trees, and the trees had a very odd kind of fruit. And I asked one of the devotees, what kind of fruit is this in the tree? And he said, will you come? We'll show you. So they took me to a place by the river where some brahmanas were doing offerings to the river. So people would come and they pay some money and they say to the brahmanas, please make an offering so I get money or I get good grades or I find a nice girl for my son or something like that. And so the brahmanas have this prayer and they make this offering. And after they finish making the offering to the river, they take the offering tray and they throw it in the river. So the offering tray is made out of woven fibers, natural fibers, and then on it are little clay cups. But the tray and the little cups were each of them covered with plastic. So there was a plastic bag over this natural woven fiber. There was a plastic bag over each of the clay cups. And they kept the plastic bags on, so they just put the offering materials in each of the cups, and after they make the offering, they threw the whole thing in, plastic and all. And when it was the rainy season, the river would go up and these plastic bags would get stuck on the tops of the trees. And then I was there after the rainy season, and so the trees were covered with these multicolored plastic bags. So love for the holy place, of course, means not only in Vrindavan, Mayapur, but it also means here. It also means here. It also means this building. It's not just that we should come and see the deities and, oh, give me some blessings, give me some blessings. But we should try to do something for the place. So I know you're starting to build a beautiful temple, right? Yes? That's the plan, to build a beautiful building? So this is very nice if we have the mood of love for the place. If we really take care of the place. So this means not just doing service for the deities and not just building the place, but maintaining it. Making sure it stays clean, making sure it stays in beautiful order. If you ever get to Hungary and visit our temples there in Budapest and at the farm, everything is cared for so nicely that even, decades after it's built, it looks brand new. Everything is so clean, everything is so well maintained. If there's a problem, it gets repaired. People have love for the place. This also means love for the holy place in our own home. If we have, a shelf or an altar or some place that we've made a sacred place in our home, to take care of the place. Again, we don't just want to, I'm going to do my puja for my deities and then go to work. And, I've been to, I don't know how to say this, but I've been to people's homes where you touch the altar and your hand turns black. Or it's covered with little bits of dried flowers and incense ash, and no one ever takes care of the place. They simply think, oh, I'm going to worship God on the place, but not the place. It would be something like if you had a guest to your house and you fed them nice food, but you made them sleep in a dirty bed. So we should have much attachment to Krishna's place. Then he says that we should have attachment to the devotees, and Raghunath Das Goswami gives us here 3 categories of devotees for whom we should have unprecedented attachment. The first category are the devotees who always live in meditation in Vrindavan. Now he just says live in Vrindavan, but Bhaktivinoda in his commentary explains this means live in Vrindavan in meditation. So how many of you have been to Vrindavan in India? Okay, almost everybody. So I know when I've gone there, I found it sometimes a little confusing that, okay, everyone who lives here is a Vrajvasi. Did you have that problem? Especially if you actually walked around, if you didn't just stay in the MVT. If you really... my kids lived at Govardhan for a long time. I spent 3 months living in the village at Govardhan, and I was very confused. How are all these people actually Vrajvasis? So I really like what Bhaktivinoda says in his commentary here, that to live in Vrindavan means you live there in meditation. It's not geography. In the early days of the movement, we had this idea that only if you lived in the temple ashram were you really a devotee. We had this idea of geography. If you slept in the temple ashram, you were an Uttama Adhikari, and if you slept across the street, you were a Majjhima Adhikari, and if you slept, 2 blocks down the road, you were a Kanistha Adhikari. We really thought like that. I'm not kidding. I'm really not making this up. So we may think like that also. You know, that if you geographically live in this place in India, you're a more elevated soul than if you live here in Illinois. But that's not necessarily true. You can be living here and you could be a Brijbasi if you're in meditation on the Holy Dham. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, if you're living in Radhakund, but you're meditating on material things, you're actually living in Narakakund. He said you're living in hell. And Prabhupada was asked once in Hawaii, can you make more advancement if you live in the temple? Prabhupada said that depends on whether or not your mind is on another subject matter. So one should have great love for those who live in Vrindavan in meditation. Of course, if they also live physically in Vrindavan, that's very nice. Then he says we should have great love for the Vaishnavas on earth. This means the serious practitioners of any tradition. This is the principle that everyone who loves God should love everyone who loves God. Now, what kind of a world would it be if everyone who loves God loved everyone who loves God? What do you think? And this is just verse 1 of Manah Siksa. Then he says we should also love the Brahmanas who teach Varnashram. So Varnashram means the codes of morals and ethics, how to behave in the world. And most religious teachers of any tradition are really just teaching on that level. They're really teaching how to be a good, isn't it a fact? I don't care whether it's Christianity or Hinduism or Islam or whatever it is. They're mostly teaching how to behave nicely in the world. But one should have great attachment for those persons as well. So let's look at this. These 3 levels of devotees. For whom we should have attachment. Because Bhaktivinoda, in his commentary, talks about these 3 levels of devotees in terms of Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanista. So you've heard those terms before, right? Yes? Bless you. So Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanista. Now Uttama really just means above ignorance. It means the highest, best. And Madhyama literally means just what? Middle. Intermediate. And Kanista means unsteady, literally. So it means the beginner. So here we have in Manah Siksa how these are defined. Where else do we read about Uttamas, Madhyamas, and Kanistas? Nectar of Instruction. Where else? Srimad Bhagavatam. Which canto? Excellent. You guys are all scholars. That's really nice. And where else? Excellent. Nectar of Devotion or the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay. So, in Manah Siksa, Bhaktivinoda explains that these 3 levels given by Raghunath Das Goswami, the Uttamas are those who live in Vraja, in meditation, and the Madhyamas are the who? Serious practitioners of any tradition. And the beginners are Brahmanas who teach Varnashram. All right, can anybody help me fill out these other squares here? Okay, so no inclination to criticize, right? And we're going to 9 o'clock, right? Is that the plan? 7 to 9? Am I right? I'm not doing, no, everything is okay. Is that all right? What was advertised? 8:30. Okay, then we're not going to do 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do 1 and 2. Okay, and what else in NOI? Okay, that is Majjhima of 11th. Love for God. And what else did you say? And what else? Huh? Compassion for innocence. Okay? Sees Krishna everywhere. And himself is the lowest. Well, almost. You're like within a fraction of an inch. What? Okay, can you tell me the details at all? Fragile faith. Yeah. Fragile faith in, well, specifically, Shastra. And can be convinced by others. Excellent. Sees God only in the temple and doesn't know how to do what? So this is your typical neophyte religionist. You know, God is only there on Sunday from 11 to 1, and God isn't in my life on Monday from 4 to 6. Right? And this is also, you know, God is only in my temple. He's only in a Sunni Muslim mosque and not in a Shiite Muslim mosque, or only a Catholic church and not a Protestant church. These are the people that give religion a really bad name in the world. Okay, can you give me some of the other squares here? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, so he has strong faith in Shastra, but may not be able to convince others. Okay? Yes? Yes, that's here. Sees Krishna everywhere, himself in lowest, everyone as highest. Yes. Everyone equal. Okay. Yes? Yes, but that's not in any of these. Although it's something like what's here. It's not exactly never falls down, but it's almost, again, you're like within a hair of how Rupa Goswami explains it. Yeah? Yes, what? Yes. That's almost the same thing. It's kind of like a positive way of saying the same thing. Undeviated bhakti. Yes? Expert in Shastra and can convince others. And firm faith, right? Okay, we just have 2 more here. Okay, has Diksha and does deity worship. And this one is? Excellent. Okay. Chants the holy name. All right. So we can see that these are looking at advancement in different areas. So like this one, what is this looking at advancement in? Specifically, knowledge and faith. Yes, so this is knowledge and faith in Shastra. What about this one? Excellent. Relationships. And this one? You went to my class already. Okay, and this one is interesting. That just reminded me of a really, should I tell you a really funny story that has nothing to do with Manah Siksa? It just reminded me of it. In Alachua many years ago, we had our first education conference. I think it was the first time we had a real professional seminar type conference in the Hare Krishna movement ever. And we had a lot of devotees presenting on education, and we also invited somebody who wasn't a devotee to make a presentation on education. And so the way the room was set up is his table was there in front of the altar. So it's like his back was sort of to the altar, the table was sort of at an angle. So he was kind of like this, facing all the devotees. And he wasn't a devotee himself. He'd never been to Hare Krishna temple before. When he started speaking, the curtain was closed. In the middle of his presentation, the curtains opened. And everybody in the room fell to the floor. And he looked around and said, "What did I say?" Okay, so in Manah Siksa, what is this one you're talking about? You can see it's talking about people's conception of God, their conception of perfection. The Brahmanas who teach Varnashram, they're understanding God as the creator of the world, morals and ethics in the world. And these people, they're serious practitioners, but they may not understand Krishna and Vrindavan. They may understand God just as the Father or maybe Vaikuntha. And these people understand Krishna and Vrindavan. So they're object of worship. And we can see here that you could be a Kanista in one area and a Majjhima in another area, couldn't you? Right? I mean, let's say you're always meditating on Krishna and Vrindavan, but you really can't convince others of the scriptures. Or maybe even your faith in the scriptures is weak. Or maybe you only started to chant the holy name. And could you have taken Diksha and doing deity worship, but not know how to treat the other devotees? Could you even have strong faith in the Shastra and be able to convince everybody and not know how to treat the other devotees? So, of course, at a certain point, one becomes an Uttama in everything, but it is certainly possible to be an Uttama in one way and a Majjhima or a Kanista in another. So we want to have great attachment. Maybe we'll only do verse 1 today. We're going to have great attachment to all these three categories of devotees. Those who always live in meditation in Vrindavan, the serious practitioners of every religion, and the Brahmanas who teach Varnashram. Then we should have great attachment to the mantras received from Guru, to the Gayatri mantra. We should be chanting these mantras with attachment. Prabhupada said, don't cheat yourself and just chant Om Buddha, 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 Buddha. Actually meditate on what you're saying and meditate on what your relationship is. I found myself, if I really meditate when chanting the Gayatri mantra, it's so sweet. But if we do it as a ritual, it just becomes something to do that's interrupting your day. Isn't it? Especially if you have a job for noon Gayatri. Yes? And great attachment to the holy name. So, again, this means not chanting as a ritual. In Bhagavatam 284 and 285, it's explained that the holy name sits in the heart on the lotus of our loving relationship. If we don't have a loving relationship with the Lord, the holy name has no place to sit. You're inviting the holy name in, but there's no place to sit. There's no place to sit. Ever go someplace and you're kind of looking around for a place to sit? So if the holy name comes and there's no attachment and there's no affection, the holy name's, there's no place for me to sit. And we find that our meditation and our absorption is very difficult. So as I said, we had paintings done for this book. This is the painting that we had done for verse 1. This is Nandagram. And we did these paintings not only to illustrate the verses, but also according to the details given in various shastras and from the acharyas. If you look in the back of your small book, you'll see that there's explanations of the paintings. So there we have for each of the color paintings, we have quotations from the shastras and from the acharyas explaining why we have the details of the painting like that. So unless you're expecting a call from the Queen of England, can you put your phones on vibrate, please? If you don't know how to do it, just ask one of the children and they will show you. So many people think that this is all that's required. I just have to have love. I just have to have love. And you see this in every tradition. Whether it's Hindus who say, oh, I am loving Krishna so much. Or the Christians, I love Jesus. I remember this one girl came to the Sunday feast in Boston. Gosh, how long ago was this? A long time ago. What year was this? 76, I think. And she said, well, I don't know if I want to take up Krishna consciousness. I already have my own teacher. I said, who is your teacher? She says, Jesus. I said, well, that's very nice. How would I know, looking at your life, that you're a disciple of Jesus? And she said, well, you wouldn't. It's all in my heart. Which reminds me of, I once heard two God brothers talking, and one said to the other, my heart's at Mangalartik, and the other said, why don't you bring the rest of your body? So if we just have attachment, I have attachment for Guru and the holy places and the holy name and the devotees, is that going to be enough? Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes the word excessive. You remember it was unprecedented and excessive attachment? And he comments that this excessive attachment means that we make an effort. If someone says they love you and they never do anything for you, that's not really love, is it? If they never demonstrate it. So Bhaktivinoda says that we should not simply depend on luck and just say, well, if Krishna's kind to me, then I'll get Krishna prema, and if he's not, I won't. But no, we should actually make a great endeavor. We should make a great endeavor. We should take up the process seriously. So someone may think, well, that's all that's required. Love and endeavor, devotion and service, devotional service. Okay, that's it. I don't need anything else. But in this first verse, and remember this is a padati, it's step by step. In this first verse, Raghunath Das Goswami says, Sada Damban Hitva. Always give up pride. Now, my dear friends, you're going to see this as a running theme through Manah Siksa. Those of you who stick with us the next few days, or even if you don't, if you read the book on your own, you will see that this is a main theme of Manah Siksa, to always give up pride. Now, you may ask, Sada, always, or completely give up pride in verse 1, and this is a padati. It's step by step. If I have to give up all of my pride all the time in verse 1, how am I going to go on in this padati? So please do not worry. You will not have to give up your pride until either Saturday night or Sunday morning when we come to verse 8. So you may think, well, if I'm not really going to give up my pride completely until verse 8, why is he saying this in verse 1? So one reason is that we need to give up our pride at every step as far as we are capable. It may not be absolute on an absolute platform, but it may be absolute in terms of what I can do today. So I need to be giving up pride completely as far as my capability today. Another reason he's saying this is I see this as a warning. It's kind of like you're going to go on a toll road. If you say to someone, this is the directions, but it's a toll road, you're going to have to be prepared to pay a toll. So Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, as you progress on this path, you're going to be giving up pride. And we're going to see the next few days that in each verse, we're going to be giving up successively deeper and deeper and more subtle levels of pride. Until by the time we get to verse 8, we are completely free of pride. So why do we need to give up pride? In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami explains that love for Krishna and pride are incompatible. You can only attain love when you have humility. So why is that? We talked about how our false ego gets challenged when we're not appreciated, right? We do something we're not appreciated. Why do we not appreciate? Pride. Pride makes us think I deserve. You know, if your husband mows the lawn and fixes the garage door and takes care of all the bills and buys a new washing machine, and if you think, well, that's his job, he's my husband, he's supposed to do that, then you won't appreciate it. You understand? You know, a man comes home, his wife has made a 20-course meal and cleaned the whole house, and she's wearing her most beautiful sari, and he said, well, she's my wife, that's her job. And then there's no love. You understand? As soon as we have this pride, we have a sense of deservedness. Now, I give this example all the time. It's a very simple thing to understand. You have $20, you go to the store, you buy something, and you find out, you know, maybe you buy it at Walmart, and then you find out, I love it, I'm in America, my God, I can use those American stores. And then you find that it's on sale at Target for only $5. How do you feel? You have $20, you go to the store, you buy something, you find out it's actually worth $20. How do you feel? You go to the store, you spend $20, you find out what you got is worth $100. How do you feel? Our feeling of happiness is in direct inverse relation to our feeling of deservedness. The more we feel we deserve something, the more we feel we're owed something, the less we enjoy it. The more pride we have, the more feeling of deservedness that we have, the more miserable we are throughout our lives, and the less we're able to have a loving relationship with another being. What to speak of with Krishna, who's giving us everything? We tend to think, you know, I deserve air. So this can be your first homework, a home fun assignment. Don't worry, we won't be collecting this, though if you want to give it to me. I had one devotee in Germany, in Simachalam, who did send me by email what he did for this home fun assignment, and it really affected my own heart. To write a list of all the things that you think you deserve. So he sent me his list, and I looked at it and said, oh, wow, I think I deserve that one, and I think I deserve that one. Like clean bedding, clean air, good government, people who care about me, people who understand me. I had this whole list, and I thought, wow, I really feel I deserve these things. I become very angry and upset when they're not there. And then we can't appreciate, we don't see it as a gift then. Does that make sense to everybody? If I think, well, I deserve water. I deserve water. Of course I should get water. Then I don't appreciate it. I don't see it as a gift. I don't feel like the air is a gift. I don't feel like all my friends are a gift. Right? You were just telling me how you stay in D.C. and devotees put you up in their home, right? Wow, it's amazing. Isn't that amazing? That you can go work in Washington, D.C. and devotees are fighting to put him up in their home? I was thinking it must be expensive. You have to maintain a place here and you have to maintain a place in D.C. No, I just get put up in people's homes. But if we're humble, we just think that's wonderful. You understand? Does that make sense? Yes? Also, when we're full of pride, then it's very hard to receive any good instruction. Right? It's hard to get any help from anybody. It's hard to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Okay. So I think what we'll do, I think we'll just end. I want to make sure, especially on a weeknight, that we don't go too late. So what were where did Raghunath Das Goswami again tell us to put our excessive and unprecedented attachment? Anyone remember the list? Guru. Devotees, and we had 3 categories of devotees. Anyone remember the 3 categories? And the middle category? Any serious practitioner. And the other category? In other words, any spiritual teacher who's teaching about proper worldly behavior. Okay, where else should we have attachment? Holy places. Where else? Holy name. Process of. What else? Gayatri. All right, what I'd like us to do for the next 5 minutes is, did I miss one? Well, it's the process of surrender to the lotus feet of the divine couple. Did I forget something? That's Gayatri. Okay, I'd like you to each to pick one of these and think of how you're going to, some specific way in which over the next few days, let's say between now and Sunday, you're going to increase your attachment. So I can give you a simple example. Something I decided to do many years ago. It was on Prabhupada's disappearance day, when I decided that whenever I said the pranam mantras to Srila Prabhupada, I was going to say them clearly and distinctly, and I was going to think about what they meant. It's so easy to just go to Mom Vishnu, right? And you didn't know what you said. So I decided I was going to say them distinctly and think about what they meant, and it really, doing that simple thing really increased my attachment to Srila Prabhupada. It only probably took me an extra 2 minutes a day total. You know, and I was going to be saying my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada several times a day anyway. So I wasn't adding like an extra thing to my life. I was adding an extra quality of something to my life. So if you could think about and share it with a neighbor. Okay, if you could share with a neighbor just in the next 3-4 minutes, and then we're going to end, about pick just one of these, just one, please, just pick one. Just pick one. And then just one thing that you're going to do between now and Sunday night to help increase your attachment to that one. Okay, if we could just end with that. Please, if you could talk with a neighbor, just the next 2, 3, 4 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. So we will see you tomorrow, and we started a little late today because so many people wanted books at the beginning of the class, which was wonderful, but I do plan to start exactly on time, 7 o'clock tomorrow. Yes? I don't want to do that on a weekday. I could go a little later tomorrow night, but not tonight. People have work and stuff tomorrow, and I really like to respect people's early morning time. So we'll see you tomorrow promptly at 7. If you know of anybody who wants books, we didn't bring that many here, so already half of them are gone. So you can please let them know to get them tomorrow. Thank you very much. Raghunath Das Goswami ki jai. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.